Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Sumner Sambo. Churches are big business in Nigeria, with a teeming population fast approaching 200 million. About 49% identify as Christians. That's roughly about 78 million people, many of them attending places of worship religiously every week. Those flocking to church are happy to offer donations or purchase church souvenirs. Most of them agree to give 10% of their income to the church monthly, a practice known as tithing. But the signing of the Companies and Allied Matters Act amendment into law has garnered criticism from the religious community, especially that of Christians. Heard loudest from the religious leaders, the act promotes government vigilance in the affairs of religious organizations with non-profit status. The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has rejected the idea of bringing the church, which is technically grouped among the NGOs, under control of the government. And I go straight to one of our religious leaders here, who's going to give us a perspective on the critical issues being raised by religious organizations and leaders across the country. We have with us Bishop Jonathan Maji, presiding bishop, Springs of Life Resource Center, who is at our offsite studio. And I still have here with me in the studio my guest, Tolu Lope from the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, Bishop, we want you to go straight into the allegations made by CAN that this is actually being made to ensure that the church goes down in the country. What specific aspects of this amendment are the religious institutions and leaders against?
Well, let me begin by laying this preamble about the church, which is an institution and as well as the body of Christ. First and foremost, let me say that it predates every government, it predates every political setting. It also predates every structure that had ever existed. And let me also say that the church is foundational to every affairs of the earth today, and which is just one of the reasons why everybody need to know that he or she originates from what plan or purpose God had for man. God had instituted a system like we teach in our churches. God had planted a garden, which is an ecosystem, and he gave man governance. He gave him an empire. He talks about a kingdom, and he said, be my manager. Now, with the coming in of this act, the church is not averse to any amendment, but want to make the government understand that we are very much obedient to the laws of the land, because when you talk about governance system, when you talk about economic system, we even tell the government that we understand the 8 gates of the society. But the church is averse to that same clause, where the government wants to come into a non-governmental organization or charity, in as much as they are not termed as charities in this country, to begin to regulate her affairs. As though the government provides subvention. I know it is not there in our constitution. If it is there, maybe we've not heard. Numbers 2, as though at the end of the day, the government always do what is called tax return, what we see very common in America or in the UK, because when you are regulating a people, then definitely it means that you are a player, a key player to what is. So the church is coming in and seeing the government as one who is coming to interfere with the affairs of the system that predates it, because the government is supposed to even look at the church and begin to ask for help and any assistance. But at the end of the day, it is turning out. I'm not averse to checking extremism and excesses that have been very common around, but we need to go back.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
we need to go back to check out it.
Why is it that when churches from Nigeria go out, especially into the Western world, to establish branches, they actually agree to this same trusteeship regulations, especially in the UK and in the US? And I know that, I mean, you've had churches and all of that there. Why do you agree to their laws over there on trusteeship? But when it comes to Nigeria, I mean, bishops like you and other top regulatory, churches and organizations in Christendom are against same regulation.
Now, Sumner, let me say to you that systematic stability is one of the reasons. You know, when you go to a system and see it working the way it's supposed to be, you have no choice but to begin to work alongside that system. In the case of Nigeria, we have had instabilities. And some of these instabilities make everything, even our very laws, laudable laws. When you open the pages of the Nigerian Constitution, what you begin to see are laudable issues that are supposed to regulate the actions. But then eventually, what's supposed to be the law becomes erratic. What's supposed to be stabilized is not held onto. And sometimes some people are used as scapegoats to begin to bring the law that had not been working. But now what we are trying to say is, if the laws are going to work, the government should check any of the excesses. Like in Isaiah chapter 10, we don't talk without bringing the scriptures. Any law that is going to step on the right of somebody's association, like the Bible calls it unrighteous law, anything that is going to make me uncomfortable, anything that is going to make me begin to see myself reacting to the government that's supposed to look and watch over me. Romans 13 says we should be obedient to the laws of the land. But when the government is coming in and there are some, let me call them loopholes or cracks in the laws, not that the laws have been amended or changed, if they are coming back with these same laws in a way that will suit every one of us. For example, you go to America, you have tax return. For me, I get to America, they will tell me whatever my member gives, by the time he's leaving the church, I'm supposed to return whatever offerings and tithe he has given. You see, that's the law. Then there is the law of falling under the anointing. What does that mean? If somebody is prayed over, like the church has not lost her power, forget extremism, so forget rituals, forget all of the things that are going on, forget all of those damages that have been caused by other sectors of the body of Christ. If anybody falls under the anointing, maybe in the process of exorcism, and he gets wounded, I have a license in the United States, I have a license in other Western systems that will now free me from paying compensation to whosoever. And the government comes in and begins to take care of that person through their national health insurance policy. But when I do not have that permit, I do not have, then any other thing can happen because the government pays subvention back to me.
Okay, I will go to you straight. Looking at some of these observations, have you been able to hold a session with Christian leaders as the CAC to enlighten them on some of the provisions? And then, can you enlighten our viewers on the provisions concerning trusteeship? What exactly does this clause mean, and why is it generating the furore we have around?
Now, let me quickly clear something, right? I've heard it said that the church predates the society. I mean, as you know, it as a government. I have no issues with that, right? But I also need to clarify that the government did not bring the church within its searchlight. The church submitted itself to the searchlight of government by taking that decision to be registered.
So would you have wanted churches to remain unregistered?
That is another issue. But I said it earlier.
Because, I mean, for them taking the step to even agree to be registered, it means they are trying to
submit
comply.
Yourself.
Yes. But the government should also be reasonable. That's what they are saying.
I appreciate that you said something earlier, that these same churches, established branches, they go beyond Nigeria, at the shores of Nigeria, established branches, and they abide by the rules. What you have in CAC, what you call powers, are not anywhere near the powers of the Charity Commission. The Charity Commission is a law.
So, in other words, the law here, the CAMA amendment is softer compared to the Charity Commission in the UK, for example.
Go and look at it.
Okay.
Right. Now, we're also aware that a number of these same churches are unable, they are finding difficult to operate in the UK because they cannot subject, they are finding difficult to subject themselves to scrutiny.
Does this have anything to do with tithing and offerings?
Let me not go into that.
Are you interested in that? Is the
No,
CAC
no,
as an organization
and again,
interested in the financial records of...
We want to know where you get your money from and how you use that money. Because what you have subscribed to by coming to register is that you are promoting non-profit, non-business enterprise, charity. And you are committed that whatever you get, you are channeling need to promote that objective. Howsoever you get that money.
And I want to ask, are mosques and other traditional institutions,
every one of them, they are covered by this law.
Yeah, are they expressing grievances on this issue?
I'm not aware. I mean, all the grievances we've been hearing is in public space.
You may not be aware, but is the CAC as an institution?
The CAC is not aware.
Has it received any
even from CAN, we have not
from...
even received all these things.
Oh, there's no official letter from CAN?
Well, I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not aware that we have gotten anything.
Okay.
What I would have expected is that when they were ready to Mr. President, we should have been copied.
Okay.
You understand?
So
now I want to talk about the trusteeship and the powers.
That's
now, the greatest, once you are registered, you are considered into a trustee, right? A body corporate. Some of the privileges you enjoy is that you can hold property in the name of that corporate body. You can sue and be sued, right? Your succession is perpetual, okay? And then you can acquire property. Now, that part about property is the most interesting. It says that you can acquire, you can alienate, you can dispose, you can sell, but subject to directions of the association. Right. Now, who holds them responsible? Who scrutinizes that? You were registered under an instrument. So if you look at the section 859 we're talking about, I'm happy that at least we agreed on subsections 1 and 2 that you need the court order. Now, it clearly states
so what would they do to warrant the trustees being set aside?
In the management of the affairs of the company.
And what kind of misconduct are we talking about?
Fraud, sorry, when you are fraudulent in the conduct and administration of the association. Right. When you are wasting the assets and property.
So is that not supposed to be determined by the church members or the members of the religious group? Why should the CAC actually determine how the church manages its assets?
All of these things, we come to this conclusion. We don't just sit in the office. We will get petitions, we will get complaints, we will get all of that, and we investigate.
Okay. So in other words, the church members or members of the religious organization
or the NGOs, they complain. I mean, we received those such before. We intervene. We hold some kind of mediation, and they resolve.
Okay. Just before we go on break, how true is it that Chinese companies under this new amendment are not to be registered in Nigeria? Other foreign companies are alleged to be said that they must register when they come into the country, but except the Chinese companies. How true is that?
Well, I think it's the second place I'm hearing that. I've heard it speculated.
It's on everywhere, especially on social media. People are saying, why are Chinese companies being exempted from registration?
For me, I mean, that is outlandish. One, I like people to read the law or read a material before you comment on it.
And have you made it available to Nigerians?
Yes, it's available.
Okay.
I mean, this same thing has been circulating, right? There's nowhere in the law that any national of anywhere is mentioned. The law today, as it was then under the 99 Act, is that any foreign company coming to Nigeria to do business must be registered, except you are exempted under the section. And that section does not mention a Chinese company, Indian company, a European company, or anything.
So in other words, just one of those social media stuff.
It's nothing, there's nothing like that.
All right, so have you embarked on public education?
We have been doing a lot of engagements. Yes, I mean, because of this COVID thing,
just in 30 seconds.
Yes, actually. Because of COVID, you cannot gather. But we're doing a lot of webinars. The RG could not come here because he was talking on the TV, again, a live program, and another TV. So he had me come here.
Okay.
Almost every day we address webinars.
Okay. Amendment Act. And I still have with me here Bishop Jonathan Maji, presiding bishop of Springs of Life Resource Center, who is at our off-site studio, and my guest, Todulokbe Shonaike, who is here in the studio with me. And I go to you straight, Bishop. What kind of amendments would you propose, since the National Assembly has said they are open to receiving, these amendments from CAN and other religious organizations or NGOs that are interested in making sure that there's a further amendment to the amended Companies and Allied Matters Act?
Beautiful, Sambo. We move from one nation to another and we see what is obtainable in other places when it comes to regulating the activities of these Christian bodies. inasmuch as we are not empowered in any way, not even in the Bible, to be independent of the state, one of the things I have seen working very well is for a very long time, the Nigerian government had known the CAN, that's the Christian Association of Nigeria, and the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria as one of the arm. Then we have the Catholic, we have the TACAN, and then we have the other organization. I think CAN has about 5 bodies. Now, one of the things that would have been very much easy for the Nigerian government, one, understand that we are a secular state. As Nigeria is a secular state, it's not like the United Kingdom where the Queen is the head of government and the affairs of governance, or in America, which is also a secular state. Now, the affairs of church and the government are divided. What the government would have done is get back to CAN and tell CAN, because to check these excesses and be able to regulate, we understand that once the trustees are registered, they are the ones that regulate the affairs of that organization, in as much as everything still boils down. Get back to CAN and say, CAN, give us the number or the list of Christian bodies or churches that you know are very genuine. Because in other nations like Cameroon, a church cannot be registered until after about 20 years of being watched. It must come under the tutelage of a bigger assembly, and it is that assembly that will now suggest to the government to register. And after which, if they discover that such an assembly is not yet qualified to be registered, just like the Nigerian Bar Association, after a student had graduated from studying law, he goes to law school, and at the end of the day, he gets back under somebody's tutelage until he is qualified to begin to practice. I think if the government gets back to this, the church now will be able to give the government what is expected. But when the secular system will come in, I'm not saying that there is any demarcation between the secular system and the spiritual, because the spiritual gives birth to the secular. So we must have to understand the systems that even God had talking about earlier.
Okay, you are the bishop of a church. Have you embarked on self-censorship to ensure that, for example, you do not fall foul of the provisions of the CAMA Amendment Act that has just been passed, so as to ensure that there is no censorship from the government that will lead to removal of your trustees? And then, secondly, why is it that it's more of the Pentecostal churches that are having issues with this amended act? Because we have heard from others, especially from the Orthodox churches like the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church and all of that, saying that, they are at peace with the provisions because they've always done this.
Yes. Now, I want to let you know that if I were to pass on today, Sambo, my ministry has no problem. Remember that to be a bishop is like being a president over a state. That is the ranking of a president. I have a secretariat that is not only limited to this country, but even extend to other nations in the Middle East, the Western world. And every organization that has to do with this very ministry has been put in place. I don't have problem with any one of those provisions, but the government must have to come back, because it's in this place that I like to blame the government. For a long time, regulating organizations in this country had always become a problem. And like I listened to the representative of CAC said, that when change comes, people tend to be averse to it. It's not everybody. If it were to come right now, let you know, Sambo, that I visited and revisited and revisited. At my consecration over 12 years ago, I had revisited all my documents and all the acts of company and allied matters that had to do with my ministry, because I see myself extending my tentacles to other nations, and it has been even before my consecration. So I don't have problem with that, and I'm very much sure that if the government will rise to her duties and begin to see what part it need play, considering human rights, the rule of law, and understanding the freedom of association, and also those policies the government have earmarked for non-governmental organizations or charities, in as much as we say that's a clause that does not work in this nation, then we will work smoothly, because we are supposed to even be like watchmen over the nation. and over the people and even the government. They're supposed to come to us and seek our counsel to know what God is.
I want you to specifically answer that second leg of my question, which is for the fact that why is it that it's the Pentecostal churches that are making lots of cries about this amendment, while the Orthodox churches like the Catholic, Anglican, Methodists seem to be in tune with this amendment?
Right. Let me open it up to you a little bit. I have said earlier on that the office of a bishop is you rank it with the president. The Catholic Church had been a state church for a long time. You understand that they send ambassadors to nations of the world, and anytime the Pope is coming, he is being welcomed by the state. Now, also with the Anglican, that was where the Anglican came out from. So they practiced it. Remember, I said to you that the Queen is the head. The Pentecostal church seems not to be educated because quite a number of us are novice when it comes to the law. And that was why I was blaming the erratic nature of the state of Nigeria. That if stability had been the clause or the common factor of the Constitution of Nigeria, we would have been working with the system. Let's even throw ourselves back over 60 years ago at the independence. Before we had independence, the white men regulated this nation. And everything was going on fine. Why now?
We'll have to hear the views of the CAC on this specific issue. Why is it that it's majorly a section, as I've said, of the Christendom that is complaining? Why is it that the Orthodox churches are not complaining? Why is it more of the Pentecostal churches?
Thank you for that question. I'm happy you're the one bringing it up.
And you also didn't answer the last one, which I asked. Have you had maybe Ifa priests or other traditionalists also writing to the CAC to say we do not agree with
I told you straight out there that we've not had any correspondence, any objection from any of them. Right. Now, I'm happy about that question. Again, I think it's because those Orthodox churches, even the Aladra church, right, they have a good governance structure, right? And they are able to separate the spiritual from the secular, so to speak. Let me borrow the language of the bishop. You know, I'm happy, and I must commend the bishop. Obviously, from what he has detailed, he runs a very structured system. But what we have come to see is that most of these Pentecostal, I'm using the language now, these new age churches, somehow they are unable to structure the ministry to be distinct from themselves.
Okay, so what are the benefits of actually ensuring that the right thing is done based on the CAMA Amendment Act? And as we await the implementation, hopefully on 1st of October, just like your registrar said, what are the things that Nigerians should look up to?
Well, there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of benefits in the CAMA, and it's not just about religious bodies or NGOs alone. Generally, in the business environment, right? It will simplify things. It will make running businesses more transparent, and stakeholder engagement will be promoted. It will also ease. We're expecting that because it will open up. It will be able to bring people that are in the informal sector to the formal sector. A lot of people run businesses now without registration or registration as business names. They are afraid to go into bed with what you call strange fellows. But with the reduction of the single shareholder company, we expect and we'll see a migration, even from the business names regime that is registered to the company regime, the one-man thing.
Okay, so well, we'd like to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shonaike from the Corporate Affairs Commission for educating us on the provisions and, of course, responding to some of the allegations. And then we also want to thank Bishop Jonathan Maji of the Springs of Life Resource Center right here in the nation's capital, Abuja. And earlier on, we had Ariyo Dare Atoye, who is a civil and human rights activist right here in Abuja. Well, that's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.